From their humble beginnings to headlining the Las Vegas Strip, this legendary duo rose to become some of the highest paid entertainers in the world. Their act was dazzling and their fame was global, but danger was lurking just behind the curtains. This week's episode is Siegfried and Roy, Tigers, Tragedy, and the Truth, Part 2. Sinisterhood.
Showed the kids some footage.
Oh, what they have to say.
And, well, you can't watch the footage of the incident. That
Correct.
has been blippied, which is when you don't want anybody to find something ever on the internet and somehow you get rid of it forever. But someday,
or the blippy
someone
footage
will find it.
I know.
I've seen the blippy footage.
I was like, the blippy footage has been manticored, maybe, because this one happened first when
That's
they
true.
hide the information.
It got manticored, yeah. They had a lot of questions. Like, what's that? I'm like, I think it's a mechanical dragon that Roy is riding around and Siegfried is stabbing in the mouth. Is that an elephant? Yeah. Do you see how there's zero barrier between that elephant and its foot is about level with where an audience member's head is right next to
just
it.
Take a hoof to the face. Do elephants have hooves? I don't know, but take one right to the face. It would crush you. I mean, there.
And I said, well, yeah, the tigers have gotten loose a couple times.
They've lost a jaguar. A lion got out. It does a whole list of them, man. I'm surprised. Honestly, I'm surprised the elephant never got loose. Like, given the fact that it's so big, perhaps it was just very well trained. But the fact that they've let a lot of other things inadvertently loose, I was surprised that the biggest of all did not get out.
Yeah. Ella did say, I'd like a pet tiger if it was tamed. And I said, well, that's the problem is, it's hard to tame a wild animal.
What is tame, right, when it comes to these animals? And I'm sure we'll talk about it as we get into their the height of their fame is what we're talking about today. And like that's the problem, right? Is like making it look easy. Like swimming with a jaguar or swimming with a cheetah looks easy, and most people can't do that.
No,
and the ones that even
shouldn't.
shouldn't. Yeah, you shouldn't.
And shouldn't. Yeah, it's wild. They also had a lot of questions about the magic of it all. Did he really stab him? And I was like, it's just an illusion. And she's like, he's sitting up. I was like, they're professionals. But watching the show and then what we'll talk about, like their schedule, grueling, exhausting to work as much as they did with such a high energy, demanding show day in and day out.
Oh, yeah.
A mistake was bound to happen from either animal side or people side at some point from exhaustion or just complacency. Yeah.
Whenever you run this hard, it definitely catches up to you for sure. Well, they had like a Broadway-esque show. I feel like we had a Broadway-esque show. They could have put Full Moon Energy on Broadway. We didn't have dragons. Certainly not. But
I don't want to close that door.
The door's open.
Still can if you'd like to.
If you're a producer and you want a great show, call us. But if you are not a Broadway producer and still want to see our show, you can go over on Patreon and purchase Full Moon Energy, which is our touring show we did the last 2 years. We're not going on tour this summer, so this is your way to see us live on Patreon for just $13 spooky dollars.
13, lucky 13. It's a fun show. Do we have tigers? Maybe. You'll have to watch and see.
Tune in.
We do have some untamed animals. I will say that.
There's untamed animals, and there is, I would say, a wild feline beast that you get introduced to as well, who's beautiful in every possible way. So I hope I think of him often, and I always hope he's doing well, that beast that appears in Full Moon Energy in his beautiful outfits. But check that out over on Patreon. And if you do want to see us live, you've got one chance this year. It is Crime Wave at Sea 2025, the ultimate true crime cruise and festival at sea. So it's us, Henry and Ed from last podcast, the folks from Scared to Death, from True Crime Campfire. We're going to have a blast on the high seas, going through the Bermuda Triangle. We're going to the Bahamas, private island, and we're going to see some aliens.
Yep. Aliens above and below, and do all the other fun cruise stuff. Shuffleboard, ping pong, swimming,
casino,
eating, casino.
I'm a casino
nightclub.
bitch.
Oh, yeah. Karaoke.
Oh, shit.
Just live podcast recording, other types of shows and crossovers from all the performers, and then all of you and all your new besties.
Yeah,
and then a bunch of people that have no idea this is going on the ship, which is going to be the best part.
That's the best part, because it is a whole cruise ship, and only a part of it is for the True Crime Festival, and it's 75% sold out according to the text message they sent out, which is great, because I want it to be 100% sold out, just so that there's safety. There's numbers of all of us for the normies to be like, you guys are those true crime people, and we're like, yeah, man, come join the party.
Yeah. And when shit pops off, who are they going to come running to? All of us.
Exactly. They're like, we think we saw something over the ocean, and we're like, you did, and we believe you. We're ready to believe you. And if you saw a ghost in your cabin, if there's a ghost in the cabin, a cryptid on one of the islands, we are there to investigate. So go to crimewaveatsea.com/sinister and book your cabin now. Like I said, they're selling out quick, and once they're gone, they're gone. So we can't wait to take a vacation and sail into another timeline in the Bermuda Triangle.
November 3rd through 7th, leaving from Fort Lauderdale. It's going to be a blast. So crimewaveatsea.com/sinister.
Yeah, it's crimewaveatsea.com/sinister.
Get that fan code. Well, in the meantime, we're going to keep on trucking with this dynamic duo, another one.
Can't wait. We'll be the Siegfried and Roy of the ocean. There already was that.
They already had dolphins, so I feel like we have to narwhals. Can we get narwhals?
We're going to get jellyfish and narwhals. Yeah.
Jellyfish and narwhals. Nice. Well, I'm Christy.
I'm Heather.
And let's get into it. In 1987, developer Steve Wynn was crafting his revolutionary resort concept, the Mirage, which opened in 1989 and was billed as the most luxurious casino hotel ever built. Wynn sought a headline act unlike any other. He found it in Siegfried and Roy, who had already proven their box office draw through years of sellout shows at the Stardust and the New Frontier. Wynn offered the duo a record-breaking $57.5 million 5-year contract, making them the highest-paid performers in Vegas history at the time.
Yeah, Wynn he obviously did the Wynn later, but the Mirage was like $630 million at the time. And he was like, I'm a developer guy, and I'm making this a destination for families. So he liked the Siegfried and Roy aspect because they were covering the titties up and everybody could buy tickets. Mm-hmm. And that's the type of show you want at a resort that's going to have an erupting volcano, a waterfall. Like, it was going to be this big ass thing, and you want the biggest performers with their big ass cod pieces.
Yeah, that family friendly show of just giant cats that could maul you in any second walking around the stage.
Bring your children. What I don't quite know the logistics of, they talk a little bit about it in their book. Mostly they just talk about the places they went. But the time when their other contract ran out to when the show was being built out at the Wynn or at the Mirage with Steve Wynn, they traveled the show around and performed Radio City, performed in Tokyo. So then it's like, now you're flying these cats.
Yeah. Flying, you would have to some of the
some of the places.
You can't drive to Tokyo. Mm-hmm. People have tried.
They've tried and they've sunk immediately.
But the cost of shipping exotic wildlife across the country has got to be pretty high.
Yeah, that's pretty. You know what though? We are Siegfried and Roy. We need the planes. Get the planes for us.
Oh fuck! You think you could? No, there's weight limits. You couldn't put all of the tigers on a plane.
Well, it depends on what else is on the plane. I suppose it'd have to be empty of other.
If it's just Siegfried and Roy, the pilot, and then only cats.
The pilot's got his notebook out to do his pre-flight, weight and balance check, and is like, how many tigers on one side? And they're like, but we've balanced it with the elephant on the other side. Don't you understand? The elephant is on the left and the zebras and the tigers are on the right.
Yeah, it's going to be a challenge.
Trying to take off.
You got it. You got it, pilot. You can do it.
They had to practice.
The Mirage included a 1,500-seat custom theater built specifically to accommodate Siegfried and Roy's extravagant illusions and large-scale animal performances. The theater was designed to incorporate elaborate trapdoors, hydraulic lifts, and enough space to house their signature white tigers and lions mid-show. According to The Atlantic, the construction budget exceeded $30 million, making it the most expensive theatrical installation in the world at the time. This stage wasn't just for tricks, however. It was a sacred temple to their brand of myth and magic.
Yeah, they got the set designer from like Miss Saigon and a bunch of other Broadway shows. And the guy was like, well, I can't, there's like not really a script here. And Siegfried said, we are the script. You took a drink right when I said
man. Yes, I did. I also can't get over this.
Well, Ernie
right above my head in the background. He looks like he's just perched right on my head.
If you're watching on YouTube, we got Christy a new camera, and now Ernie's peeking out behind her.
He is. I keep slumping out of my chair. Yeah, they were the script. I mean, there's, a format to the show. Sure, the dancers and all the performers got to follow it. But at the end of the day, those two were running it. And if they changed something mid-show, then everyone had to go with it.
Yeah, you're looking at it like we are the show.
Alongside the theater, Wynn gave Siegfried and Roy the green light to create a wildlife sanctuary on site at the Mirage. With that, Siegfried and Roy's Secret Garden and Dolphin Habitat opened in 1990. The Secret Garden served as a mini zoo and educational center, allowing visitors to observe the duo's exotic animals, white tigers, lions, panthers, and leopards, up close in lavish, naturalistic enclosures. The dolphin habitat, added soon after, featured a pod of Atlantic bottlenose dolphins in a sprawling lagoon, offering educational talks and interaction programs. By the mid-90s, the facility employed full-time veterinarians, animal nutritionists, and caretakers. The enclosures were considered state-of-the-art, integrating shaded areas, enriched environments, and rotational schedules for animal wellness.
I just showed you last night the photos Nancy pulled out of our family scrapbook of some tigers in the Secret Garden enclosure, and then Shanna and my sister and I in front of the Siegfried and Roy giant heads and the giant tiger, and I got my arm through the tiger's mouth. But it was, I mean, the tigers look like they're in like lavish digs.
Yeah, sure. I mean,
not
who's to say they weren't? It's not China, where they can just run free and there's not a bunch of people staring at them and knocking on their glass and shit.
Right. That becomes the question, right? If the definition under our laws are like, well, you have to treat it humanely, not you can't have this at all. Then it starts to become, okay, well, if our morals and how we feel about it don't line up with the laws, it's like, we got to change the laws. Because back then, I mean, they were, to their credit, would say like, we're going above and beyond what we even have to do. Like we're getting, like everybody's got a nutritionist and they've got all this space, and it's like, but they'd be happier in the jungle.
Yeah.
Right. And it's like, well, would they? It's like, yeah, they would.
I mean, ask a person, you're in prison, but it's the Ritz. I mean, you have everything brought to you, 5-course meals, anything you could want. However, you cannot leave when you want to. So at the end of the day, you are a prisoner here. Would you want that?
Right. And also your inherent nature is that you're a professional outdoor runner that runs, ultra marathons that are 56 miles at a clip. And it's just like, I want to be out running.
Yeah.
Why am I not out running? It's like, we got you a treadmill. It's like, that's not the same.
And it's the knowing that you can't too, which really, the psychological thing. And I think even though they're animals, they feel a sense of captivity, and like there's a limitation to where they know they can walk or jump. And also, who are all these little faces that are sticking their grubby hands all over the glass right here?
Their hands were grubby. You're accurate. And those tigers were like, get out of here, bitch. No, I mean, the tigers are just kind of like lying around or whatever. Because it's also 1 billion degrees in Las Vegas. So, there's that part of it too. I mean, we could go on, but they thought they were doing the right thing. And everybody that visited and got the frames, the picture frames of the white tigers, the t-shirts. If you go on eBay, Siegfried and Roy on eBay, I did. Every piece of their merch that was sold there, the Secret Garden or at their show, all of it had the tiger face on it.
Oh, yeah.
So like that really became, their magic was good. Like Penn from Penn and Teller, like all these well-known legitimate magicians were like, how the fuck did they do this magic? It's incredible. But the real sell was this white tiger.
Yeah. The danger of it all.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, at the end of the day, magic tricks, while it might look like a sword or something, I think the audience kind of suspends the belief of we know that nothing bad's going to happen. It could. With a tiger, you don't know that. You're almost maybe hoping to see something bananas,
Yeah.
that people love that morbid curiosity, the thrill of something going wrong.
Truly. And that's what the audience members and the stage hands, they're like 100-person crew and everything. They were like, everything was different because of the tigers. Like it really does like elevate the nerves of everybody in the audience, but at what cost?
Yeah, no, it would, at one point they had like 11 and I'm like, that's just too, you can't have that many. And I feel like it's like 21 kids and counting. At some point you have too many and you can't give them all the attention that they need, even if you've got caretakers for them and shit.
Well, and it's true. And I believe even like the dancers that weren't trained to be really like part of illusions or animal handling. Michael Davies was a former dancer and he gave an interview saying, I learned the choreographer and then they went, okay, you're going to be helping with an illusion and there's going to be a big tiger as part of it. And he's like, oh, okay. And he's like, I grabbed the door and I'm like, going to go do the illusion. And I open it and there's just a big ass lion jumps out. And he said, it's not leashed or anything. So I turn and it's like starting to head toward me and I'm panicking. And then he said an animal handler just kind of wandered by and casually took it by the collar and walked off stage. And he was just like, okay, now I will bow. And you're like, let's give credit to like literally everyone in the cast and crew whose job was to face that down all the time.
Yeah, it's, I hope their paychecks reflected that they had an added element of danger than other Vegas shows didn't.
For real. Sinisterhood will be right back. Man, when I'm trying to go to bed at night, my brain is like, did you do this? Did you remember this? The amount of times I pull my phone up and I'm like, remind me in the morning to do whatever. And I just want to go to sleep. And the problem is nowadays, because my bed's so comfy and my sheets are so comfy, I almost don't even get to set myself reminders because I fall asleep in buttery goodness.
Oh, buttery goodness. What a way to describe it, and accurate. Boll and Branch sheets quiet all the noise of the day, wrapping you in a softness so extraordinary that your body and mind effortlessly drift to sleep. Their signature sheets are made with the finest 100% organic cotton, offering a buttery, breathable feel that only gets softer with every wash. Usually, you wash things and they just tear down and get ratty. Somehow, with magic and technology, Boll and Branch has Benjamin Buttons these sheets and they get better as you wash them. They are softer. The more you wash it, you can experience the difference for yourself with Boll and Branch's 30-night guarantee.
You were a Boll and Branch stand before we even started working with Boll and Branch. So then I was excited to get on board, and I am a lifer as well. Like it feels good. We can't explain how it works because we're not scientists, but Boll and Branch has nailed it. And it really does feel like a buttery, soft, like it's just an enveloping feeling.
Yeah.
So try Boll and Branch sheets for an entire month. Seriously, just try them. Then you know whether we're talking real about this butter, and we are. You can wash, style, feel that difference for yourself, risk-free. If they don't change the way you sleep, send them back for a full refund and go back to sleeping on your ratty sheets. No one's going to judge you, but take this moment and indulge.
What do you have to lose?
Come on now.
Feel the difference an extraordinary night's sleep can make with Boll and Branch. Get 15% off plus free shipping on your first set of sheets at bollandbranch.com/creepy. That's Boll and Branch, BOLLAND branch.com/creepy to save 15%. Exclusions apply. See site for details.
Sinisterhood will be right back.
The Secret Garden was more than a tourist attraction. It reflected Roy's lifelong devotion to animals and Siegfried's passion for illusion grounded in wonder. Over the decades, the attraction became a multi-generational experience, drawing over 1,000 visitors a day at its peak, many of whom had never seen a big cat in real life. Roy passionately explained its purpose in a CNN interview.
We created at the Mirage a secret garden, which is a place where people can go this close to him and see and smell and feel them. It's something actually where you physically can see. It's not where you learn out of books or videos. When they care, that means they understand it. When they understand it, they want to do something about it.
There's something to be said for that. I mean, I'm all for education is, conservation, animal protection and everything. So I'm sure people did learn stuff. I've learned stuff at zoos, and I'm not a fan of zoos necessarily, but I've learned stuff. And a lot of places like that are doing rehabilitation efforts as opposed to just keeping an animal captive.
Right. And that's kind of the problem is when it's like, we're all about the conservation. They can't move very much. And also, would you like to buy 17 t-shirts and this photo frame and a particular, like all these like on top of it where you're like, really though, you're milking the animals for money.
Oh, you love these animals. I have no doubt about that.
Seriously.
Never questioned it. From Chico to now, the animals have solely been for entertainment purposes in the show.
Yeah.
Like he developed a relationship with Chico, not in the show and stuff. But as soon as Chico was out, like they just incorporate. So from the beginning, almost, it was a money-making opportunity.
And yeah, and I agree. It's almost kind of like a family performer, like a, it's like mom and dad, and then all the kids are acrobats. And it's like, does that 6-year-old really want to be an acrobat? I mean, maybe not. And a lot of times they would get these tigers or lions from when they were like mostly tigers, little bitty cubs. And like Roy would bottle feed it. We'll talk about one particularly that he got, its mother rejected it. He bottle fed it and stuff. So he really felt like they're his babies, but like we still see stage moms, exploiting their babies. And maybe they do on some level love the kid and they're shown it in a different way. But also this is almost like a fixation and obsession of like the next thing we can show them. Like we'll show these tigers and show what they can do. Because also it shows that you're some badass, that the tiger is not turned on you yet.
Yeah. And they're not cheap,
Also
they clearly liked the lavish lifestyle and everything from where they performed to where they lived was just magnanimous.
Gold and like like a king, or like that guy. Yeah. Speaking of kings, like the guy in Ren Fair on the show on HBO that was like,
oh yeah.
It's sort of like a person that grew up with nothing. What a poor person's idea of what rich people look like. Yeah. And you're like, I want it to look like Louis XIV's palace. And you're like, oh, okay, sure. Yeah. Gold toilet. All right.
You got to lean in. You can't just half-ass that. If you're going for a jungle theme and you've got a bunch of tigers and dolphins, you have to go whole ass. You cannot half-ass it. You got to go all out. At their peak, the duo performed 6 shows a week, 44 weeks per year, a grueling schedule that reflected their absolute commitment to the spectacle they had built at the Mirage. Each performance was a high-octane blend of precise illusion, animal choreography, and theatrical fantasy involving over 60 cast and crew members, dozens of animals, and cutting-edge stage mechanics. Unlike many Vegas acts that allowed for extended breaks or scaled-back appearances, Siegfried and Roy operated more like Broadway performers, consistently delivering flawless shows in one of the most demanding live entertainment formats. Their consistency made them a Las Vegas institution, drawing millions of visitors from around the world and contributing to over $1 billion in ticket sales across their careers.
At one point, Siegfried got bitten by one of the cats during the show, he didn't rip his arm off, but he just went backstage and like put his arm behind his back and went backstage and was like, I need a towel. And they give him a towel and he wrapped his arm up and he's like, the show will go on, and like just kept going. And the cast and crew kind of learned like, oh, they just are machines. Like they're like professional athletes, because they were it was physically very demanding, and they were like leaping all over the place and dancing and choreography. They love to leap.
They love a leap in that cod piece. They leapt everywhere.
That cod piece is flying.
Never did they walk. They leapt everywhere they went. Mm-hmm. It also, though, kind of shows the performers like, oh, well, the show will go on regardless of what happens safety-wise. And that can be a toxic environment when you're like, oh, and now I have to do an illusion with this fucking lion. And also it could scratch or bite me. And like, they don't even really think that's that big of a deal.
Yeah. And he got bitten and just kept going. Yeah. And he's like the star. So I guess I'm going to have to do the same thing. And you're right. It does cause you to like take risks that you probably wouldn't otherwise take. But that's a lot. 6 shows a week, 44 weeks a year is bananas. And it was before this that Siegfried had struggled with the Valium addiction, and Roy really like stuck by him. And because Siegfried was like, I've got, my nerves are so much from performing this much, that he would take a lot of Valium, and like it started affecting him. And so Roy encouraged him to get help. And you would think, knowing that the last time you performed this amount of grueling, schedule, that you turned to substances, that you wouldn't want to do that. But I mean, it does, from all what we've heard, like they he never went back to that, but it's still kind of a risk to take. But that's just the dedication and obsession, I think, that they had of like, I don't fucking care. I'll get out there. Our name's on the marquee. Like, this theater was built for us.
Yeah. If we let off the gas, then we might lose momentum. Our headlining status. They're the kings of Vegas at this point. Also, I'm no doctor, but a Valium when you're working with a bunch of giant cats, not a good combo.
Right.
You want to be
I didn't even notice
all the time.
It's like you're in a box with a big cat. Like, you can't be like, whoa, it just came back to earth. And you're like, that's not good.
No. But I mean, at the same time, I believe both of their mental health struggled. Specifically Siegfried, because he just wasn't as into the tigers as much as Roy.
Right. Especially a man that's afraid of monkeys. And you're like, but we'll just put a lion next to you. There's a great picture. I'll see if I can find it again. But where part of the illusion was Siegfried opened this door, this like little gate, and there's a big fucking full-maned African lion just like, rah, giving like an MGM roar. And Siegfried's face is a little like, ugh. And he's like, I'm smiling, but it's like a kid that you give him like nasty Brussels sprouts or something. And they're like, it's good.
Oh,
you're like,
this is great.
Like, you don't love that.
In the one I showed Simon and Ella, the big African lion was there too. And Siegfried was like bopping it on the nose and stuff through the cage. And it's still like moving its head about and roaring. I'm like, this is not a tabby cat. You can't just boop it. It could literally just grab you by the arm and rip it off then and there.
I'm like, they have memories too. Like the second that cage, like they probably remember what you did to him.
Siegfried and Roy weren't just performers. They were architects of a lifestyle brand built on mystique, glamour, and wonder, and meticulously designed every element of their public personas and merchandising. In 1992, they co-authored a lavishly illustrated autobiography with Annette Tappert, titled Siegfried and Roy, Mastering the Impossible. The book delves into their humble beginnings in post-war Germany, their bond, their rise through Europe, and ultimately their magical dominion over Las Vegas.
A lot of it, we showed a little bit last time. A lot of it's also pics of them with like celebrities.
Yeah.
And there's
I can't get over how big this is.
This book is huge. It's like coffee table book size. But a lot of celeb photos, it's like Steven Spielberg and like Sylvester Stallone, presidents like Carter, Reagan, Bush, Clinton, like every president would go see them. But this one in the center, I'm going to read you the caption, and it's them with Bill Cosby.
Oh.
And it says, in New York with Bill Cosby on the set of The Cosby Show. What is the difference between Bill Cosby and Siegfried and Roy? None. We all smoke Davidoff #1 Cuban cigars. The difference is that years ago, we gave them to him. Now, today, he gives them to us.
Oh.
They didn't know that boy. Saying, what's the difference between Bill Cosby and Siegfried and Roy? None. Would not age well.
Sirs, there was quite a difference.
Hopefully.
I promise you.
Hopefully.
I also, in the thing I was watching, there was, I don't think it was a video, but a stock photo of them with OJ. And OJ was holding a bunch of, I think they were rabbits. There was something white animal. It was going by pretty fast. But the point being, all the biggest names were there.
Yes.
And a lot of those big names have since been, canceled for good reason.
For various
But at the time,
reasons.
They were like the hot ticket. They were, it would be like getting Eras Tour tickets, everybody wanted to be with them and hang out with them.
And like you said in the last one, like there wasn't really a residency wasn't like really a thing as much back then. I mean, especially not to the point of having a full theater built for you. So that really does show like you are the shit. As I was flipping, there's also a picture of them with the tiger in the cockpit. So that's them flying to Japan. So we'll make sure we put this all on both the video on YouTube as well as on social media.
So the tiger was in the plane. It wasn't even underneath where most animals would go.
I'm sure. Hopefully, once they took off, they put it down underneath.
I can't say I'm sure about that because I honestly think there's a good chance at least one, if not more, multiple, were in the actual belly of the cabin.
Now, come on, Manticore, get in your seat and let us put the seatbelt on you. Sit down,
Put your
kitty.
tray up.
Little kiss,
You
yes.
cannot take off until your tray is up.
All laptops must be stowed. Oh my gosh.
Laptops didn't exist back then, did they?
Old.
Were laptops happening?
They were like thick ass. No, they wouldn't have been.
They're like Tommy's fucking laptop. God damn that. Remember the other night when I roasted that laptop?
Yeah.
20 minutes?
And then I'm a fucking dork. I was like, how much memory do you have? And he's like, 64 gigs. I was like, oh my God. Holy shit, that's some memory. And
It's
I'm
a
like,
gaming laptop. And so the
badass.
fucking battery, the charger, it's when you trip over it, it'll send you into
Honestly,
orbit.
though,
I'll tell you that.
The charger is larger than a commercial brick to build a home
Yes.
with. It is
Oh,
huge.
yeah. It's like the
wild.
size of 2 commercial bricks.
Yeah,
it's
big.
huge.
It's big.
And it's the laptop
power
is very heavy as well.
Yeah, it's a big boy. So I feel like a tiger could take it down a couple of bites. You never know.
Yeah. The book was equal parts inspirational memoir and coffee table fantasy. The title itself, Mastering the Impossible, was also the acronym of their motto, Sarmati, Siegfried and Roy, Masters of the Impossible. This phrase adorned everything from promotional posters to embroidered robes. Siegfried once explained its importance.
We knew what people wanted wasn't just tricks. They wanted to believe magic was real, and we gave them that world.
I think they did.
I think so. I mean, if you go back and look just like, and like I said, we're looking at stuff from the 90s through a 2025 lens, which is unfair. You know, the shit that we would eat, that we weren't wearing seatbelts half the time. People would drunk drive way more often. Like, seriously,
I was smoking.
Yeah, like, I mean, I was in, I don't know. Yeah, the kind of stuff that we would do where you just kind of go, what, you put a fence up around the tigers, they're fine. You know, so I think looking at it in hindsight, but for the people that went to the show and the people that still love them on their official Facebook fan page, like, it is a borderline kind of cult of personality that there are people that are like, Siegfried and Roy can do no wrong. PETA is lying. Everything that's ever said about them is bullshit. They would never hurt those cats. Everything they do is so good. Like, to where you get attached and fixated, and people will be like, I met you, Mr. Siegfried, on January 14th, 1997, and you were so nice to me. And I have a photo of that day, and you made me feel like magic was real. Like, there are people that are like almost like Trekkie, like really into it, like as a culture style that I did not realize they had that kind of fall. I thought it was like, oh, you go to Vegas and you see them.
They got fans. They got fans. And who was it we were talking about? Oh, Mr. Fred Rogers.
Yeah.
But the biker saw him and started crying.
Yeah.
Some people, when they're kids, they want to believe in magic, and like that's an escapism. And so you grow up as that's kind of like your hero.
Yeah.
So you do become very defensive. And I never think that they thought they were hurting the cats. And I don't think they would do something as like obvious as hit them or beat them or do anything like that. I think the question is, should those be kept in captivity, period, for entertainment purposes?
Yeah, should they be on a stage, period? Yeah. But no, I'm not trying to beef with anybody that's a Sarmati hottie, which I have to assume is what the collective
Sarmati hottie
is the collective term of their fans. But yeah.
Gotta be.
Yeah.
Now, if it wasn't before.
It is now. Sinisterhood will be right back. When was the last time you needed to go to a doctor, but you pushed it off? Let me guess. I've got a list of excuses you probably used. I'm too busy. It'll heal on its own. I don't need help. I don't know which doctor to go to. I've used all of these myself. We've all been there. Dude, booking a doctor's appointment can feel daunting as hell. You don't want to look at a list of people, your insurance, what's going on. It's the worst. But thanks to ZocDoc, there is no reason to delay. ZocDoc makes it so easy to find and book a doctor who's right for you.
They for real do. It was a game changer. I'd never known about them till they became a sponsor. And then I was like, oh my God, how did I ever live before this? ZocDoc can help you get allergy relief fast too. So you can beat the sneezing season, which is what we call it around here, as my nose is sniffling right now, and make spring a little less sniffly. ZocDoc is a free app and website where you can search and compare high-quality in-network doctors and click to instantly book an appointment.
Truly, when we started working with ZocDoc, I was like, oh, this should have already been invented. This is so convenient and easy. I just wish this was always how I did it. And now it is how I book things and find new doctors as well. We are talking about in-network appointments with more than 100,000 healthcare providers across every specialty, from mental health to dental health, eye care to skincare, and so much more.
Plus, ZocDoc appointments happen fast, typically within just 24 to 72 hours of booking. You can even score same-day appointments. You can filter specifically for doctors who take your insurance, are located near you, and treat almost any condition you're searching for.
Stop putting off those doctor's appointments and go to ZocDoc.com/creepy to find and instantly book a top-rated doctor today.
That's ZocDoc.com/creepy. ZocDoc.com/creepy.
Sinisterhood will be right back.
Their brand extended into music with the release of a Zodiac-themed album, a mystical New Age-style project that fused orchestral music with astrological inspiration. While not commercially dominant, the album, titled The Magic Box, reflected their fascination with celestial symbolism, spirituality, and theatrical themes of destiny and transformation. It included voiceovers and orchestrations themed around each astrological sign, reinforcing their narrative of mystery and otherworldly connection. They used it in portions of their stage show, and it was sold alongside other branded merchandise.
Courtesy of the Dallas Public Library, we have a copy. This is Magie der Stern, which I think this is Magic of the Sky, but look, it's like a it's a hologram. It turns from a white tiger to their face, and then there's just a straight up picture of them with their white tigers. But inside, it's all in German, and each page, I'll post each of these pages. I had to put it through Apple Translate. You remember back in CD cases? And they would unfold.
That thing is like a map you're having to refold up.
So big. But anyways, the Dallas Public Library had a copy of it. I'd like to play for you a selection from the Capricorn.
I would love that.
Portion.
I would love to hear this.
Bear in mind, it is in German, so.
Oh, well.
It's vibes. We'll start talking.
Beschreitet außergewöhnliche Wege, da wo den anderen der Atem ausgeht. Der Steinbock ist energisch und zäh. Er überwindet die Schwierigkeiten des Lebens. Unmögliche schrecken ihn nicht. Er ist ein Gipfelstürmer, ein würdevoller Einzelgänger. Zu Beginn des Winters, wenn die Sonne am tiefsten steht.
Sounds just like me.
Yeah.
Do we have a translation for what was happening?
So this says, he wants to go high and walks extraordinary paths where the other person's breath goes out. The Capricorn is energetic and tough. He overcomes the difficulties of life. The impossible does not frighten him. He is a summit climber, a full loner. At the beginning of winter, when the sun is the deepest, the nights are the longest. The earth seems to be first, but under the surface, it's working on new growth. She's the element of Capricorn. Seems serious and melancholic, rarely showing feelings, tends towards asceticism, wants to expand consciousness. But the Capricorn also goes to the other and shares knowledge with him. And if the Capricorn binds himself, then it's usually for life. Capricorns are researchers, ambitiously stubborn and determined. They approach their goals, which are often far away. They are life's marathon runners.
Oh, well, I would agree with most of that. I don't fancy myself a loner, but
it's a loose.
I think I have Sagittarius rising, Aquarius rising. I don't remember what it is. It balances it out to where, because a lot of Capricorns, don't show emotion, are loners, but I'm kind of the opposite, where I show a lot of emotion.
Got feelings. I'm like Scorpio rising. But yeah, no, whenever I told you, I go, look, I got this CD, and I went and put it in my Magnavox CD player, and you go, maybe we can listen to it. And I said, I think we're good. Just a sample for the show. Like,
it's like when Ross found his sound that summer.
Like a synthesizer on the thing. But it's like people, I mean, like you said, it's not a super commercial success, but not only did they have this, but we talked about last time, Michael Jackson made the song for them, and they had that crossover where they're making illusions for his international tour and stuff. So they clearly had aspirations beyond just the magic on stage in Las Vegas.
I mean, what do they say? You got to have 7 sources of revenue.
That's right.
They had several streams.
They're always diversifying.
White tigers were also heavily featured in the duo's branding, and soon the breed became synonymous with their show. What they didn't explicitly advertise, however, was that white tigers are not a separate subspecies. Rather, they are a color variant of the Bengal tiger. Their white coloration is due to a genetic mutation cultivated through breeding. All white tigers in captivity today trace their lineage back to a single tiger captured back in 1951 in the jungle of India. Which,
as you can imagine, leads to the all of the dangers of inbreeding at some point.
Yep. Also wild that can all be traced back to that one cat who was captured.
Yeah, but I think a member of the royalty in India at the time, or somebody that was well connected, and so it becomes like that coveted thing that's rare. It's like that's why people want it, is because it doesn't occur naturally.
In 1983, Siegfried and Roy had purchased 3 white tiger cubs from the Cincinnati Zoo, including the first all-white cub born without stripes. According to Tigers in America, the market value for these animals soared alongside Siegfried and Roy's fame. Soon, black-striped white tiger cubs were valued at $30,000, and the rare all-white versions fetched up to $100,000 each. Animal welfare advocates estimated that by the mid-1980s, Siegfried and Roy owned 10% of the world's white tigers, and there were apparently no laws in place to stop them.
Yeah, and by the late 90s, the number of captive tigers in the U.S. exceeded the number of wild tigers around the world. I think hopefully with more conservation and return to habitat efforts, that has evened back out. But they definitely were buying them up.
They were. That number should be flipped. I don't ever want to see more animals in captivity than they are in their natural environment. When something doesn't occur naturally, but we as humans keep breeding it, and when in nature it perhaps was intended to stop, but we force it to continue, I think that's where a lot of people step in with what are the moral and ethical implications of all of this?
Right. And it's like you're putting yourself out there as an animal lover and also an advocate, but you refuse to listen to experts that know more than you, and you insist that you know more than them when it's demonstrable that what you're doing is actually not helpful.
When your whole career started with no one telling you how to train these animals. So you also thought you could just figure that out and that you were always right. So they've always kind of thought, we know best.
Yeah. It's kind of an old school thinking to be like, I don't give a shit what some zoologist has to say. And you're like, you should give a shit. I'm not saying that he said that, but it's like interesting that when activist groups would speak out, and part of those activist groups were scientists, people that study this, and they're still fighting back against it going, we know more. It's kind of like at some point you're just dug in.
Yeah. And when your whole career is tied to this act, I mean, what are you going to give it up? You could retire and be set for life, but I don't think that's what they wanted. They wanted to perform every night. That's what they enjoy doing.
We ordered 10,000 frames with the white tigers on them. We can't get rid of them now. We've got to move these frames.
We look like idiots.
We look like idiots. All the t-shirts have the white tigers on them. But seriously, I mean, it's like, you're right. They were very wrapped up in it. And it's like the whole theater was built to feature big cats.
Yeah. So there's a lot of pressure to keep that up.
But yeah.
And to keep performing 6 nights a week, 44 weeks a year.
Absolutely. And it's like, they're not the only ones performing 6 nights a week, 44 nights a year. You know what I mean? There's a lot of 4-legged castmates as well. But yeah, what they were doing, 100% legal.
That's what's wild. It's so crazy to watch those videos from the 80s and 90s of just tigers literally a foot from someone's face. Just on a leash.
I mean, I've been in that theater. It's now been torn down, but later, after Siegfried and Roy, the Beatles Love Show, if you ever saw that, it's my understanding that show was in there. And I remember, I mean, like thinking back and looking at photos and stuff, I was like, oh yeah. But also the stage, like, wasn't that high. It's a proscenium. There are just tables like right there. And even if the tables aren't right there, the cats can move.
Yeah.
They can just
real fast.
Right through the audience. Ask fucking Cary Grant how it went when they got loose back in Paris or Monte Carlo.
Ask Frank Sinatra's cousin when it knocked its toupee off his head.
My wig. That cat snatched that wig.
From 1967 to the early 1990s, the legal framework around exotic animal acts transformed dramatically. At the outset of Siegfried and Roy's career, few federal laws specifically regulated exotic animal performances. The Animal Welfare Act, or AWA, was passed in 1966, then amended in 1970 to include exhibition animals. This law required performers like Siegfried and Roy to obtain a USDA Class C exhibitor license. This license is issued to circuses, zoos, and other animal acts and allows the U.S. Department of Agriculture to inspect the care and housing of regulated animals, including standards for feeding, veterinary access, and public safety.
So we see this like weak framework begin, but even before this, when they were just getting to Vegas, for the first 3 years they were there, the regulations didn't even apply to them. It didn't apply to them until 1970. So what we see and go, that's fucking crazy. There's got to be a law against that. No, there was not.
And even in 1970, I mean, they operated for a long time without any kind of like barriers being between those cats and the people.
Yeah, and there still weren't. And it's funny to say, like, well, the USDA is going to do an inspection and ensure public safety. And like the public safety that was okay by the USDA standards was like no railing, no fencing, no netting, no nothing.
Wild.
And they're like, we've got them on a chain. And they're like, all right, well, don't drop the chain. I bet you've never done that before. They're like, on the first performance, actually, we dropped the chain. It was crazy. The cheetah ran away. I'm saying too much.
Gate, we dropped the chain.
Right out of the gate. I'm saying too much. I'm sorry. Oh, this is awkward. Please just go. Do you want tickets to a show? And they're like, yeah, man.
And they're like, yeah,
actually,
yeah. My wife's been asking if we can come. For sure. I don't know. All I can think is when we know better, we do better.
Yes.
Also, when something makes millions of dollars for a place and everyone kind of is in bed together, you are lenient with some people.
Right. They're like, I'm going to call the mayor who's the governor. But for real, I mean, I think you'd protect your own.
Mm-hmm. In 1973, the Landmark Endangered Species Act, or ESA, was passed federally to protect species at risk of extinction, including several of the big cats Siegfried and Roy used in their show. The ESA prohibited importing, exporting, or, quote, taking listed species without a permit from the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. Under the ESA, taking includes harming, harassing, or killing the animals. After the ESA's passage, acquiring tigers or elephants internationally required a federal permit, and trading in protected species domestically required compliance with the act.
Well, the thing about it is like, too, before the 70s, too, you just be like, all right, I got this like endangered, cub of whatever. And there was nobody was getting in trouble for trading those.
No, in fact, it was kind of a status symbol. And we talked last time, like, it was big in with drug dealers and people, mobsters and stuff, like having
like power.
Yeah. And just big ass scary animals like alligators, tigers, lions, I don't know, fucking huge ass snakes, a shark. It was like, how can we outdo the next person?
Like Ace Ventura, you got a fucking shark tank. You think it's not Snowflake.
Lasers.
It's not Snowflake. But yeah, it's funny because I think that as a lawyer, you kind of learn. When I was a kid, I was like, oh, well, if something is against the law, it's bad. And then when you're a lawyer, you're like, sometimes there are no laws. And so therefore something that's bad is perfectly legal, and what is bad, and if you don't really recognize it, and also some things that are bad, like segregation, are legal for a while. So, you can't really go by laws, but it's important to have them because you
stupid kids.
I'm gonna say at some point, laws do, I think, a little bit force people's hands, but like absent regulations, they're doing whatever they want.
Sure, it's better to ask forgiveness and permission.
Right.
The ESA's implementation added a new requirement for the pair when attempting to obtain a new tiger for the show. They had to demonstrate that doing so would, quote, enhance the propagation or survival of the species, an intentionally high bar. According to Michigan State University's Animal Legal and Historical Center, performers increasingly began sourcing captive bred animals within the U.S. after the ESA to sidestep these difficult import hurdles. Although enforcement against exhibitors was rare, this regulatory pressure may help explain why in 1983, Siegfried and Roy purchased their beloved white tiger cubs from the Cincinnati Zoo rather than try to import one.
And that became kind of the sort of unspoken thing of like, oh, interesting. Where are you getting all your tigers now? And it's like, oh, we're getting them from the United States because we really care about the breeding and conservation programs. And you're like, you couldn't get a permit, could you, to get one foreign, could you? Like, it's certainly, it starts to change the behaviors of the people obtaining these animals, but it sucks because then it creates a market for captive bred animals and domestic.
It does. And it's for reasons, I mean, that's a mile long. I don't agree with it.
Right. I mean, exactly. Because it's just encouraging, it's like, well, now it's like whack-a-mole, right? You're encouraging by virtue of excluding something else, you inadvertently create a whole market. And it's like, well, now we got to address that market.
And why are we doing this is,
right.
The biggest question.
Mm-hmm.
Throughout most of the duo's reign over the Strip, Nevada had no state-level regulations for owning exotic animals. The Las Vegas Strip falls within unincorporated Clark County, which operated with inconsistent enforcement and a largely hands-off approach. As long as exotic animal owners like Siegfried and Roy didn't provoke neighbor complaints or commit overt abuse, local authorities generally did not intervene. It would not be until 2021, amid renewed public scrutiny sparked by Netflix's Tiger King, that Nevada finally passed a law prohibiting private individuals from owning certain dangerous wild animals, including big cats, for the first time in the state's history.
Goddamn nanny state's going to tell me I can't have a lion in my backyard.
Sir, put on a shirt first and put down the beer and the flamethrower.
I'm finishing my Budweiser. Don't tell me what to do. No, seriously, though, it's crazy that it wasn't until 2021. And like, it's good that art exists out there, that they created Tiger King, and it sort of asked the question, hey, why are people allowed to do what Joe Exotic's doing? And it's like, we don't have laws against it. And it's like, I think we should have laws against it. And they're like, all right, call your senator. Maybe get one.
And that was in Oklahoma, where it's even less fun for a tiger to live in Vegas.
Like, right? That's like, can't even go gambling.
No.
You can in Oklahoma. You'd have to go somewhere else.
Go gambling in Oklahoma. And they were millionaires and really did take
impeccable
great care of, these tigers were, had more than most people do. Joe Exotic, not the same situation. No. So you see where, even though there's some people are trying to do right by them, you have to have these laws because not everyone has the money that Siegfried and Roy do.
That's a really good point, is like, there are going to be more Joe Exotics where they're like pulling rotten meat out of a dumpster to try to feed it to the cats than there are like petting them, loving them, letting them have their own private pool at your huge estate. Like, that's so unlikely. Like, most people buying tigers are like, I didn't know it took 200 pounds of meat a week to feed this thing. God damn.
Yeah, it's almost like it should live out in the fucking jungle where it can just hunt stuff on its own when it wants.
How can I afford this? It's like, the tiger is not paying by the pound for the meat.
No. It's not.
He's like, I got a butcher.
And Joe Exotic in places like that, those types of petting zoos /
experience.
Like wildlife experience drive-through type of places. The public is still very much going to them, and the regulations are the same. And these animals are grossly underfed and undertaken care of just in general. So the propensity for them to act out or attack is even higher.
But it's like, you see, especially with like Joe Exotic, you let the cameras in and then we can all see, but it's like, how often are they being how often are they being inspected? And then when they are being inspected, how are they being held accountable for whatever violations? And that doesn't matter. Like if you go, okay, well, you have 3 weeks to fix this violation. That's still 3 weeks where an animal is suffering because this person selfishly wants to like have his, tiger empire or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. Man, I was just flashback to the beginning of the pandemic when that just took over the fucking world.
That one guy on that fucking jet ski that like became a meme, Tiger King, man. I mean, we were all captivated.
Oh, yes. Much like those tigers, we're all held captive by that show.
Truly.
Into the 1990s, after their bombshell deal with the Mirage, Siegfried and Roy's public rhetoric began more frequently highlighting their protection of rare species. Roy claimed to CNN's Larry King, for example, that their white tigers were
very rare, extinct in the wild,
implying that breeding them in captivity was a preservation effort. However, the fact that, quote, white tigers as a group were never a naturally occurring wild population was often left ambiguous in the duo's public statements.
I will say, literally until we were researching this, I did not know this. I thought white tigers were a type of tiger, Bengal tigers were a type of tiger. I did not know that a white tiger is just the other kind of tiger, but genetically different. Like
I don't think I did either.
Yeah, I had no idea because they would say things like, "We've got to help the white tigers in the wild," and I'm like, "Oh, we do," and it's like they don't really. I mean, they do somewhat.
Or do we? Or should they never have existed? Or maybe one and then they stopped.
Right. And you wonder, like, okay, if where they're at, should they, like you said, that many white tigers, that maybe they become prey for something else because they're able to be seen. Although, I know it's tigers. They're pretty tough.
Or it throws off the ecological system for whatever reason. If you get more shit in there that you're not supposed to have, one day, when Siegfried and Roy are gone and these tigers have to go somewhere, and then what?
They're going to end up, and like we'll talk about in part 3 where they end up. But you're right. Like Dr. Ian Malcolm style, you were so fixated on whether you could, you didn't ask whether you should.
Siegfried and Roy intensified their overt emphasis on conservation by becoming active supporters and chairmen of the National Fish and Wildlife Foundation's Save the Tiger Fund, a major U.S.-based tiger conservation initiative. They also appeared in public service announcements sponsored by ExxonMobil, encouraging the public to
help us save tigers in the wild. ExxonMobil, baby, they were all about, because it was like, you got the tiger in you. Yeah. Because I guess their oil, the gasoline from ExxonMobil made your car go as fast as a tiger.
Yeah. When you're talking about ExxonMobil and environmental conservation, those are two things that really don't go in the same sentence.
We're partnered with the best environmentalists at ExxonMobil. You're like, what? I mean, take the corporate money, I guess. That's what Steve Irwin would say. He was like, oh, I can't get enough money. He's like, give me all your money and it's going to go to animal conservation. And he said, I don't care if it's dirty money from billionaires, from oil companies. I don't give a fuck. He didn't say that, but he said, I don't care. It will go to animal conservation. Give me every penny. He didn't go and become a spokesperson for ExxonMobil, certainly, but he was happy to cash their checks. So,
And it's a bit misleading. Help us save tigers in the wild, surrounded by their white tigers, when they don't need saving because we are breeding them. So we're essentially the ones in charge of them.
Yeah. Period. And it's like the tigers you got are, because of these import regulations, are domestically bred. Yeah. Like you're not like, oh, we saved this poor tiger. He couldn't live by himself. It's like you got it when it was a baby.
Yeah. It was born in captivity and lived in captivity forever. It was never in the wild. And if it was born in captivity and then put in the wild, that's not fair to that animal. It's at a disadvantage.
Truly. I think because of the earlier issues, like that jaguar they tried to get that had a previous owner and wanted to go back to its previous, like a dog, but much more dangerous. But where they're like, oh, well, we can't get a 8-year-old or a 7-year-old jaguar or a 5-year-old tiger that's already had a life we don't know. We better raise it from birth so that we can really make sure it's a good performing tiger. And then it's like, do you hear yourself? That's not conservation.
No,
that's not.
No. You're raising performers.
Exactly. Like, okay, we need to have a couple more acrobats in the set. So let's try to have triplets this time, babe. Come on, let's go get pregnant. It's
exactly.
Like, oh, what? No, you should just, no, that's not the same thing. Yeah.
They even echoed their conservation messaging to federal agencies. In a 1997 permit application to import 4 Bengal tigers from Mexico, Siegfried and Roy stated their purpose in acquiring the animals was
survival of the species through propagation and conservation education.
The ESA includes a narrow exemption for such educational programs, and applicants frequently use this language to bolster their claims. However, legal scholars have noted that, quote, conservation education is loosely defined and rarely audited in practice.
I mean, for them going, well, they'll also be seen at our secret garden zoo. And inside the zoo, we have veterinarians and zookeepers who tell kids about the tigers. And like Roy said, when you see them, you want to save them. And therefore, that's why we need them. Also, they will be jumping through a flaming hoop and wearing fun little hats.
Also, there's no need to save them because we own them all because we're breeding them. There's none in the wild.
And they're like, we're trying to get those 4 right there. So I think they still were trying to find ways around these rules. So you see, even with the Endangered Species Act, you're still going, well, how do we get around the act?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like a lawyer will tell you, they don't ever really check. Just tell them it's for education. They're like, okay, sounds good to us.
It's sad, too, that they clearly had a huge team of people working with them and, you know, on their shows and in their lives as assistants. And all of them were kind of like, here's how you get around this. Instead of thinking, what's really best for these animals? But maybe you don't know. Maybe you're like, well, this is where my paycheck comes from. So they got to stay.
Right.
I don't know what it is. But it takes somebody finally being like, well, I don't know that we should be doing this.
Yeah, and I think you're right. Like, especially if your boss is saying, I have a special bond with animals that no one else has. I've known them, like I've been with big cats for literally my whole adult life since I was 13 years old. And I trained my first cheetah when I was an 8-year-old. That's how good I am at animals. Like, you can't really, you're like, I just work here, man. All right. Like, and you think, well, he's got to know what he's doing. He's riding it through his house. Surely he's an expert as he rides the back of this pure white tiger that was bred somewhere. And then you have to kind of go, oh no, I don't think he does know exactly what he's doing. But yeah, I mean, when it becomes a machine, I don't think people get away.
While they battled public perception around their big cat ownership, Siegfried and Roy were also increasingly subjected to questions and insinuations about the true nature of their relationship. Throughout their careers, the pair maintained a deliberate ambiguity about their relationship. While deeply devoted to one another and described by friends as closer than family, they never publicly confirmed a romantic partnership. Their silence invited speculation, some gentle, some cruel. In The Atlantic, their bond was described as fluid and undefinable.
Sometimes they appeared to be friends, sometimes lovers, sometimes rivals. With each other, they had no secrets. And I think it was their manager was like, they're partners. They have a relationship that's very different than any other relationship I've ever seen in my life. And then Steve Wynn was like day and night, side by side at great risk with the animals, side by side preparing for the show, side by side driving home. They are constantly together. So it was like everyone just knew like they were attached at the hip. Sometimes they fought with each other. Sometimes they would just like get into these like very animated exchanges, but I don't think they like openly like held hands, hugged, kissed, etc. But they very clearly loved each other.
Yeah, for sure.
Deeply.
And it was a time where it probably didn't feel like they could openly hold hands and kiss. And even if you wanted to, when your like whole show and brand and business is kind of built on like you're just these magicians together. Well, if you now come out saying, and we're also lovers, you're going to lose a big chunk of your crowd.
Especially, in the 90s.
Yeah, it doesn't mean that you shouldn't.
No.
I just think that is another reason why they were very private about their personal lives.
No, definitely. And hey, happy Pride Month, right? Like
Happy Pride Month, everybody.
You should be able to live out loud and love who you want publicly. But you're right. I think in the 90s, especially since they were seen as you're a family friendly Vegas show that we invested millions and millions of dollars in. So you're going to be like family friendly all the time, right? And it's like, I think we now know, again, looking at this with a 2025 lens, that a gay couple can be very family friendly and have a very family friendly show. They're not going to start, taking each other's clothes off on stage. The opposite. I mean, you see the cod pieces, baby, but those stayed on, you're right. Like, I think they felt hemmed up, and like Roy, when they would ask him about it, they'd always be kind of like coy. And Roy said, "Oh, we've been called crazy and outrageous. Now they call us colorful and eccentric. Like, we always get called names, whatever." And like kind of try to brush it off. But understanding, I think that would have been like pretty much two things. One of the tigers going wild and eating one of them, or the true nature of their relationship. I feel like they feared like this could potentially cause an audience to leave.
Yeah. Their whole industry they've built could crumble.
For sure.
Which
it's sad back then.
It's very sad. And I'd love to be able to hear now. I mean, they've both since passed, but how that really made them feel at the time, like, because now I would hope that they would be in a time where they could speak about that more freely and openly, but to be such public figures and have to live such a private, personal life when it came to your love life, that's gotta drag you down and drain you and just fucking suck.
Right. I think probably the one saving grace is because they were magic partners. He could like Penn and Teller call each other, "This is my partner. You're my partner on stage." True. Like, so they were able to publicly be like, "Oh, I'm so lucky to have a partner like Roy. I'm so lucky to have." And maybe that's like a little way that you're reclaiming like your ability to live like that. It's pretty, I feel like it's kind of like an open secret that it was like a long-term, like indescribable, like intimate relationship. To what extent that is, I think none of us can know, but they had the right to have it as public or as private as part of their, their act as they wanted it to be.
Yeah. And they were all about mystery and mystique. So to keep, some things secret kind of added to it.
Especially if you're public, you have to perform 50 weeks a year. You're like, sometimes I just want to be with you quietly.
And they, they had their own houses on their compound, but then they had like the main house. And I wonder if their own houses were more for show or, I mean, I need no shade. I would love to have my own house. I'll live in a house next door to where we live and just come back and forth. That'd be great.
I mean, truly, and their taste was different because Roy's house was like looked like it was from Germany, and Siegfried's house looked like it was from like an 80s Coke dealer. And so they were like, the vibes are just different. Take the bridge if you want to see me.
But the press, particularly during the 1990s, wasn't always so nuanced. Rumors swirled in tabloids and late-night monologues. Their flamboyant costumes, choreographed stage chemistry, and cohabitation made them frequent targets of innuendo and speculation, often steeped in homophobic undertones. A flashpoint of this ridicule was a recurring Siegfried and Roy parody on Mad TV, where the pair were played as exaggerated, effeminate, bickering lovers with thick German accents and cluelessness about the danger posed by their big cats. The sketches leaned heavily into stereotypes of queer men, implying their relationship while mocking their perceived flamboyance.
Yeah, those sketches are, I'm offended on two levels. One is the anti-LGBTQ sentiment, but on the other one, they're just not funny. They're not very good.
Hot take, never liked Mad TV.
Really? Yeah. There was like a handful of stuff on Mad TV that I think was like quotable and became part of it. But certainly that sketch series where, I mean, they're wearing like the broad-shouldered kind of like spaceman looking or like, I don't know, wizard looking costumes that they would wear on the show. And one of them I saw was like a buddy cop duo. But anytime one would get near the other, it would be like, "Get away from them. Like, what are you doing?" And like really playing it up too much that you're like, yikes.
Yeah. And SNL had the ambiguously gay duo.
Yeah.
So, I mean, nothing to do with Siegfried and Roy, just more of like the 90s. That wasn't uncommon.
Yeah, that type of homophobic sort of. Yeah. But definitely that one, I imagine if you saw that, it would hurt you. You know, maybe you just don't watch TV. You probably don't have time to, honestly. You're like, I'm riding my tiger and performing in my show. I don't give a fuck what they say. Which, like, good for you. I hope that's how it felt. But if one would see oneself portrayed in that way, like, not in like, even in other parodies of them, you could kind of like laugh along and see, but that one seemed particularly mean-spirited. And it's not making fun of them because they're weird magicians, which I think is totally fair game, or making fun of them because they're fucking with big cats, which again, I think is totally fair game. But it's like, ha ha ha, these two guys are gay is like the underlying joke. And like, to me, I'm like, what's the joke?
Yeah. Now you're just making fun of people and how they were born.
And they love each other.
There's really no joke there. Yeah. And even if they didn't see it, to know it's out, like to be the people that write that sketch, they don't have to see it to be offended. Like how when we write our stuff, we're like, if a family member of somebody were to see this, would they be upset? And it's like, will they ever? Probably not. But you write with that in your brain, so it comes across still as like compassionate and inclusive. And that wasn't the 90s. The 90s, no one's going to say compassion and inclusion were two staples of the 90s.
They were like, that inclusive show, Mad TV. And your brain just goes, oh, nope, not that one. Oh, that one's horrible too. Oh, another accent. Yikes.
Yeah, lots of accents. While parody is often a staple of fame, many of these portrayals were cruel and reductive, part of a 1990s media culture that often derided non-heteronormative identity for laughs. The duo never publicly condemned these portrayals, choosing instead to maintain their mystique. However, biographer Annette Tapert noted the pain such portrayals caused behind the scenes, especially for Roy, who was fiercely private and protective of the duo's image. By the mid-90s, Siegfried and Roy were no longer in full control of how the world saw them. The brand they had so carefully cultivated, majestic, mystical, untouchable, was now being satirized, commodified, and caricatured. The loss of narrative control became particularly unsettling when fiction began to resemble prophecy. In 1993, an episode of The Simpsons titled Springfield, or How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Love Legalized Gambling, featured a clear parody of Siegfried and Roy, a pair of German-accented magicians named Gunther and Ernst, who perform with the White Tiger in a Vegas-style show. During the episode, their tiger, Anastasia, turns on them and mauls one of the performers on stage. At the time, it was just another absurd Simpsons gag. But 10 years later, in 2003, an event occurred that led many to claim The Simpsons had eerily, quote, predicted a tragedy. So what do we think?
That's The Simpsons for you, baby. If you, we'll see if we can do it. But people say, did The Simpsons predict the tiger attack on Roy Horn? And the footage is compelling. It does feature two guys in, their stage outfits similar to Siegfried and Roy. There is a white tiger riding a unicycle. It's fantastic. And they make a comment on stage saying, the tiger's so much happier with us than they are in the jungle. Like, basically, you're lucky that you get to perform in this show and you're not stuck in some terrible jungle somewhere. And of course, the Simpsons writers zoom in on the eyes of the tiger, go to the memory of the tiger. The tiger is sleeping peacefully in the jungle before these two roll up in a Jeep, shoot her in the ass with a gun to
tranquilizer.
Yeah, they shoot her in the ass with a tranq gun, and then it zooms back out. She turns and looks at him, and then just shreds them both.
Yeah.
And certainly, as we start episode 3, you will understand why that seemed like a prediction.
Yeah, The Simpsons are known for their predictions. It's uncanny how often they are correct.
Right. I think one of the writers just said, it's as many episodes as we had, like at some point it has to just be like coincidence. I'm like, either that or it's just really smart people pattern spotting, like going kind of like how people go, Margaret Atwood, how can you be so accurate with The Handmaid's Tale? Or like Octavia Butler, how are your sci-fi novels so accurate? And it's like, I just take a problem that's currently happening and extrapolate it out 30 years if nothing happens and how things are going to get worse. And it's probably going to go like that. And you're like, oh, do you mean like two people who routinely get loose cats on stage that maybe that could possibly happen? They're like, yeah, I don't think it's like shocking.
Or an administration where women don't have rights and everyone's fleeing to another country so they don't get taken off the streets. Yeah.
We get listed as like a dangerous place to visit, certainly.
It's a wild tale, these two, and only gets wilder and more tragic. And like with anybody, I think, that spends this much time around wild animals, lives them, breathes them, works with them, at some point, something's going to happen. It's kind of just a waiting game.
Right. It seems inevitable. And I think we see across this episode what happens when it almost becomes you're untouchable, both regulatory wise, like the USDA did routine inspections and saw that there's, no barricades or whatever. Everything they followed every law they were supposed to follow. Siegfried still got bit in the arm. They followed every law they're supposed to follow. The lion still got loose, and shredded that kid that we talked about in the last episode. So we see that if there are not regulatory boundaries around people, and even when they are, they've really got to be enforced. They have to, and even if they are regulatory boundaries, it still doesn't matter if people are super duper important insofar as they employ a ton of people. They're not bringing just in a little bit of revenue for the Mirage. They're bringing people to hotel rooms. Dad's going to go play in the casino while mom takes the kids to the secret garden. So now you got tickets to the secret garden. Dad's going to buy some drinks while he's playing at the casino. Maybe mom gets a drink when they go into the show. So the pressure to keep doing it and making it bigger and better. And when the bigger and better is a living, breathing creature, that's when we all have got to question, what's our source of entertainment? And for people that went to see them in the 90s, I got nothing but love for you, because you did what a bajillion people did. Everybody was doing it. So it just gives us an opportunity to look now around us and go, even though that's legal, is that cool?
No, I totally agree. It's, there was a lot of pressure. I mean, it wasn't just, like you said, the Mirage. It's Vegas in general. They were huge for just Vegas tourism. So a lot of looking the other way on things. Or maybe, you're like, we don't need to read through all of these reports of things you've done. And so I'm sure everything's good. Or what if you want to put a barrier up and they're like, that would take away from the experience of the crowd. And they're like, you're right, it would. And people wouldn't come as much. And they probably were right.
I mean, to say you can't just let these big cats live at your house. And it's tell me the laws. It says I can't. And it's there's not. So you're right. It becomes, how do we please the performers upon whose shoulders this entire enterprise rests? And it becomes very permissive. I can't imagine, you're sending, as the mayor of Vegas, you're going to go send animal control out to go and why don't you go dig around Siegfried and Roy and see what they're doing? And also, I think too, being a big stage spectacle, it is perhaps unearned, but it lends a sense of transparency, right? If we were abusing the tigers, you would know because you see them on stage every night. So then it's well, we don't even really, what am I going to go investigate Siegfried and Roy? Everything's fine. I'm well, Michael Davies said one of the lions got loose on him right away. Yeah. So I don't know.
And just because everything is fine doesn't mean it's always going to be fine. So let's put in some preventative measures before it's not fine. Let's not wait for that to happen.
And it's not just tigers. I mean, you see this across industry where you have dangerous blue collar jobs where by virtue of their just nature, you've got to go down into something, dig in something. You've got machinery, equipment, whatever. You could fall in, you could be crushed or whatever. And union regulations and job safety regulations are written in blood. They make the laws after the stuff happens. And so if you wait and you go, well, nothing really as bad's happening here. It's there should just be a whole ban. They're we'll wait till the Netflix show back. Once the pandemic comes, we see the Netflix show, then we'll pass laws. Don't worry.
Oh, man. Well, we ended on quite a cliffhanger, and next episode will be all about the incident.
The incident,
which if you happen to be at the show where the incident occurred, please write in to a Freaky Friday, because there's footage and interviews of people, but
I'd love to talk to someone.
As far as we know, everything's been wiped. I don't know that I even necessarily need to see that. See the attack. But I would love to hear from somebody that was there and what the actual vibe in the crowd was, and just outside in general in Vegas. Was it rippling through, or and a firsthand account of all that?
Yeah, or if you ever met Siegfried and Roy, I'm interested in that. But rumor has it they were just effusive, kind, would do anything for like Taylor Swiftian, like insofar as like someone wants something signed, they figure out a way to get it back to him and stuff. So, but I'd be fascinated just for the proximity's sake. And maybe by next episode, or this is going to have to be, I think, 4 parts. Maybe by that one, my eBay purchase will have come.
Oh,
you know, I got
what
me.
have you bought?
I can't tell you. I'll show you when it comes.
Man. Well, you were talking about looking at shirts, so
oh no,
I feel like a vintage tee might be on the way.
I did get something from the eBay listing, so I can't wait to show y'all.
Well, I can't wait to see it. We can't wait to show y'all, and we'll be back next week with part 3.
Rare.
This episode of Sinisterhood is made possible with the help of our amazing patrons.
If you're interested in supporting the show, consider joining our Patreon. You'll get access to ad-free regular episodes, weekly bonus content, you're able to vote on episode topics, join our monthly live streams, and more.
Keep it creepy.
Mwahaha.